And once the Genius Act is enacted, it's poised to vastly expand the use of stablecoins as a digital payment system for millions of our fellow Americans. It'll also protect coin holders and inject further transparency into the market. And let me be emphatic on one other point. In this administration, we do not think that stablecoins threaten the integrity of the United States dollar. Quite the opposite. In fact, we view them as a force multiplier of our economic might. Dollar-pegged stablecoins, particularly once Genius is enacted, is only going to help the American economy, and it's only going to help the American dollar. So, again, we're optimistic that the Senate is able to move quickly on passing a clean Genius Act, and for the House to follow up and do the same. And of course, once that happens, our great President Trump will sign it into law the minute it comes across his desk.
Well, this has been a long time coming, and a lot of negotiations have gone on to get this bill to this point where we had a strong bipartisan vote last night. We look forward to sending this bill to the House so the U.S. can establish itself as the country that has adopted the most advanced, forward-thinking digital asset policy in the world. It's something President Trump supports. It's something that we are dedicated to because the digital asset industry is already embedded in our country and worldwide. And we need to have something that preserves a dual banking system that recognizes the U.S. dollar through our U.S. treasuries as the important global asset that they are and continues to be, as Senator Haggerty says, the impetus for our being the global world reserve currency.
Put the wine. Did you know that there are only 7 cryptos that align with the ISO 22 compliancy? And out of those 7, only 4 of them were created in the United States. And did you know that the ISO 22 is the new global messaging standard for every major bank to switch to? By 2025, it's mandatory and it's redefining how money moves globally. While most people chase hype, 4 cryptos, XRP, XLM, Algo, and HBAR, were built to connect directly to the system. These are not meme coins. They're the rails to the new financial world. Owning these now is like owning Google or Cisco or Amazon before the internet went mainstream. You're not just holding a coin, you're holding the infrastructure to the next economy. Institutions are already positioning themselves, quietly accumulating, because once the reset hits, the assets won't just be valuable, they'll be essential. Most people won't realize it until it's already done. This is why I'm so bullish. Wake up, people. Open your eyes.
I'm not surprised at all. BlackRock and Ripple partner together. Ripple brings Ondo Finance's tokenized U.S. Treasuries to XRP Ledger and push for RWA expansion. And there's another story, so watch until the end, because it's about the XRP Treasury on Vivo Power, and it's absolutely amazing. Ripple bought Ondo Finance's tokenized U.S. Treasuries OUSG to XRPL, and Ondo backs OUSG using BlackRock's tokenized fund, BIDL, and is valued at $692 million and also one of the largest tokenized Treasury products. Basically enables 24/7 institutional access to tokenized short-term U.S. Treasury yields. XRPL is Ripple's blockchain, so this is bullish for XRP. Also, Vivo Power. They partnered with Flare to deploy $100 million in XRP for institutional yield. So the $100 million that's going to their treasury to purchase XRP, well, the XRP that's going to their treasury will go to the Flare blockchain to generate yield.
So if you hold XRP, you own at least one XRP is 1/100 billionth of all the wealth of the human race.
What would that make for the entity Ripple then?
Well, that would make Ripple the World Bank.
Interesting. And let's expand upon that. What does that mean for those in the audience who might not be engaged in the XRP community or have an understanding of what the World Bank entails?
Well, I'm sure as people who have never heard this before or aren't aware of Ripple and XRP, they're listening to this and they might think, oh, this guy's a conspiracy theorist, right? They don't know, because somebody like me who has studied finance going back to the Roman Empire, going back to before that, all the way back to the stone money dials on Yap Island in the Federated States of Micronesia, when you look at the patterns and history of money to where we are right now, after the petrodollar, after we came off the gold reserve, there's really only one competitor to be the global reserve currency, only one thing that can come in and replace the dollar, and that is
XRP's price already locked in? A lot of people are waking up to the fact that XRP's role in the new financial system is already locked in, and they're right. The infrastructure's built, the banking corridors are established, the CBDC pilots, the private ledgers, the cross-border payment rails, all of it has been quietly laid down behind the scenes while the public has been distracted. XRP's purpose is locked. What you're seeing right now is not a project waiting for adoption. It's a utility engine already plugged into the system, just waiting for the public's on switch to be thrown. But be clear, while the demand and the use case are locked, the price isn't. Not yet. What you're seeing today is a placeholder price, not a true market value. The exchanges are still heavily manipulated. Liquidity is throttled, and regulatory shackles are keeping the spring compressed. When those barriers come down, and they're going to, we're not going to see a slow crawl upward. We're going to see a supply shock, a violent repricing, real liquidity pouring in from institutional corridors that were never built for retail to even touch. If you think the banks have been buying XRP quietly for years just to suppress it forever, you're missing the bigger play. They're not trying to bury it. They're trying to control the supply before the new financial system demands it on a global scale. When the floodgates open, when utility activates, and when price discovery is finally allowed, the same XRP that you're holding today will be the most valuable asset you could possibly own. The system is built. The use case is locked. The explosion is coming. And it'll be too late to buy the dip when it hits. As always, show me some love. Repost these videos.
Do you guys remember when I said that 99% of cryptos are going away? And that you probably hold a security, not a currency? Well, go check out the bill that the House just passed, the infrastructure bill, that includes rules and regulations for cryptocurrency reporting and classifying digital assets as securities. I've been warning you guys about this. It is coming. It is here. 99% of cryptos are going away, just like Brad Garlinghouse told us. When are you guys going to start listening to the real players in this game? The people who understand and are sitting at the table with the governments, the regulators, and the biggest banks and financial institutions. They might have a clue about how this plays out. And to all you promoters, they're coming for you too. Good luck. God bless. We'll see ya.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. And I've said, oh boy, oh buddy, a million times, but today I really mean it. Oh buddy. Friends, I have an hour video, and I'm about to do this video. You need to watch it all the way to the end. This, it could, not only is it just going to change your life, you listen carefully. I've made this video in such a way that you cannot escape the information that I'm trying to share with you. And it's going to make you a very rich person. But listen, I don't care about material things. I care about salvation. And that's what it's really about. We're going to talk about salvation. And we can't be ignorant. We must be as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves, Jesus said. Yeah, the serpents are very wise. And we should be wise, but we should also be very innocent and do nothing wrong. And we're not going to tell you anything in this video that the Lord wouldn't want you to know or do. Okay, right now, I know you don't understand a word I'm saying, but it, of course, has to do with the XRP. And you're probably thinking, what, Dave? Get the mark of the beast? No, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do, they're the ones perpetrating the evil, but Jesus has given us the answer. He told us, he gives us talents. That means a coin. Jesus talked about giving us coins and using those coins wisely. One of the things Jesus told us is we should put if we don't have a lot of coins, they got all the coins, right? But if he gave us a coin, could that be by fortune or by accident or by his providence? Well, what I'm about to tell you today is so profound and amazing and truthful and at the right time, the circumstance that's been given to us, the opportunity, the opportune time, that it could not but possibly be the Lord's providence. And he wants us to hear this. I guarantee it. He wants you to hear this information. He wants you to understand that the great tribulation that's coming upon the entire inhabited world is not for you. You say, what are you talking about, Dave? What are you, some crazy cult leader or something? No, I ain't leading anything. Jesus is our leader, and he's the one who's telling us what to do. And he says, if you want to be a good steward, then you need to take your money, your coins, your talents, and if you have very little and you don't know what to do with it, do not hide it in the earth, but go and take it to the bank and at least let it collect interest. Now, that's the very least, is get your interest, according to Jesus. That's the wise thing to do. However, and so this means that banks by themselves aren't evil, and they evidently had banks in the days of Jesus. And we should put it, because there were always lenders and money lenders. But the world's been operating on these axioms for a long time. This is the law of Moses, the law of transaction, and bonds and contracts, right? Contract law and everything. This is the law of Moses, and we're still under it, right? Not one jot or tittle will anywise pass until heaven and earth pass away. Well, heaven and earth is about to pass away. And just before it does, while we're still yet stewards in his world, we need to go and take these talents and these assets and purchase commodities, clothes for the homeless, food for the hungry, right? Herbs for the sick, and knowledge for those who do not know. We need to preach the gospel. And this is the gospel, friends. I want you to understand that the Lord is going to be with his saints. Now, I said that the tribulation is not for you. Well, not for you if you believe in Jesus and you love your brother. Because Jesus said, we are not, as Christians, we're not under any condemnation. Now, remember, the condemnation is what's going to cause the world to go into this tailspin. The wrath of Yahweh, the judgment. We're not under judgment. There is no condemnation or judgment for those who walk in Christ. And we're not appointed under the wrath or the punishment because we are free, because we receive the new covenant, the covenant of grace. And the Lord's given us his instructions as a steward of the Lord. We need to take our money and put it in the bank. But we'll pull it out at the last minute. And we'll explain to you why we're going to do this and why this is happening. Because all the wealth of all the world being stolen by Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance, and the government. They're stealing your money. But the Lord has already told us in advance what they're doing, and he's given us a plan. We're going to get that money that we can back. They don't know that we know. Okay, we know that they don't know that we know, and we're going to do what the Lord knows and told us to do, and we're going to be sitting pretty because we're going to take these commodities and this wealth, these assets, and we're gonna snatch them before they suck them into the devil's lyre, and we're gonna use them for what the Lord wants us to use them for. The resources for the children of the living deity. We're going to have a table prepared for us in the wilderness, and the desert shall blossom as the rose. Not one hair of your head shall be harmed, friends. Come on out and let us do what Jesus asked us and have all things common. Therefore, once we come into the wilderness and we gather and the tribulation begins, we're not going to be buying and selling because they won't let us anyway. They're not going to be letting us to buy and sell unless we get the mark of the beast. We're not going to do that. But before the mark begins, while we're still just working with banks here and the new system, which is XRP, which is not immoral yet until they ask us to worship the government. And we're not going to do that. But just before that happens, probably around November or even later, we do not know the day and the hour. We're going to pull that money out. We're going to buy land. We're going to buy tools. We're going to buy food. We're going to buy resources and clothes and herbs and seeds and plants. And we're going to love the world. And we're going to be a beacon on the hill and say, come on, people, gather in the wilderness. We're going to be the alternative to the New World Order. We're going to be the kingdom of Christ, which, by the way, remember the woman is seen crowned with the 12 stars, and she goes into the wilderness. That's us. We're going to be led by Mary, okay, with a crown of 12 stars. She's crowned, and she has the baby. Oh, she has the baby, and that baby is the kingdom of deity. Who's heard of such a thing, for a kingdom to be born in one day, right? It's the kingdom of Christ. It's going to be born before the tribulation or at the time that the tribulation begins. And the church will be in the wilderness, and here we are, and here we're going to be with a table prepared for us. Thousands shall fall at our left hand and thousands at our right, but it will not come nigh to us. And the plague shall not come nigh to us, right? What plague? Oh, it was all known beforehand, and the instructions were given. Friends, oh man, buckle up, sit down, get you some coffee, prepare to understand exactly what's about to happen. You're about to become very rich. And we're not going to use that term to mean we're going to be, sitting around in luxury and golden crowns and golden statues like Trump and his Eiffel Tower or his Trump Tower or whatever. No, we're going to be in the wilderness taking these resources, the wealth, and feeding the hungry and clothing the naked. Now, let me explain this in depth. What the Bible is saying and what we should do. Please watch unto the end, because I love you all. I hope my family and everybody that I know and all my friends will watch this, and I hope you will heed what I'm saying to you. And after I do this video, I'm going to go on the YouTube channel, The Killer Priest. I've been on there before. I believe that he's going to have an emergency broadcast. I'm going to go on the show and we're going to chat, him and I and his guests or whoever's going to be there today. I don't know when this is going to be. Maybe tomorrow or the next day. I'll let you know. I'm going to be on the Killer Priest broadcast on YouTube, and we'll lay it out and we'll explain this further. But today, we're going to be laying it out here. So, I'm going to read you some things off of AI, and I'm going to talk to you guys, and we're going to explain what's going on. So, look at what AI has to say here. Yes, recent legislative efforts in the United States have addressed the classification of digital assets, including Bitcoin. Here's a breakdown of how the issue of classifying Bitcoin as a security is discussed in relation to recent congressional bills. Differing views. There's an ongoing debate in Congress and among regulators on whether Bitcoin and other crypto assets should be considered securities, commodities, or a new asset class entirely. The traditional framework used by the SEC, the Howey test, helps determine if an asset is a security based on certain criteria. The Clarity Act, this proposed legislation, attempts to classify digital assets into three main categories. Commodities, which would include assets like Bitcoin, Ether, and Solana. Securities, and a third, neither category. If passed, the Clarity Act would likely place Bitcoin under the oversight of the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, as a digital commodity rather than the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, as a security. The SEC's current position, the SEC has previously indicated that it views Bitcoin as a commodity, but continues to assert that most other digital tokens are likely securities under the Howey test. Impact of the classification of Bitcoin or any digital asset as a security or commodity has significant implications for its regulation, including disclosure requirements, trading rules, and which regulatory body has jurisdiction, the SEC versus the CFTC. In essence, while Bitcoin is generally seen as a commodity, the ongoing debate in Congress and the details of proposed legislation are constantly shaping the regulatory landscape and the definitive classification of digital assets. So, what does it mean? All the digital currencies and all this crypto that you hear about, they're all securities, probably. We're not completely sure about Bitcoin. It may be a commodity, but they've been putting it under the classification of a security because it's under the jurisdiction of the SEC. And they did this on purpose. And in Congress, they're talking about all these, there's all kinds of cryptocurrencies and coins and Bitcoins and all these things. And people have invested millions and billions of dollars in these things. And yet they kept calling them securities. Well, take a look at this. Will cryptocurrencies disappear? Not necessarily all. They won't all disappear, but any of them that are classified as securities, see, this is something that they're secretly doing, and it's been a big, question mark is what's going on. It seems like all these are coins, but they're not stable coins. It's just this currency, cryptocurrency, that many of them are, it's like in thin air. It's like digital money that you're putting millions in and it keeps going up on the sheet in front of you. Like your $1 turns into $2, $3, $4, but you don't see any money. You don't have any cash in your hand. You could cash it out for dollars, but while it's in there, it's just digital. It's just thin air, kind of like the Federal Reserve. But if they're going to a stable coin, if they're going to a regulated way to buy and sell, and we know they are, and we know that XRP is the bridge to all transactions, whether it's the tariffs that Trump's imposing or the oil in Saudi Arabia. Everything in Saudi Arabia has been given a digital fingerprint and is all used, and they're using XRP. Japan is using it. All the banks, most of the banks are using it already, and they have to comply. I think by November, all banks have to comply and be using XRP. Well, we used to call it SWIFT, but it's a very slow process. It wasn't digital. And this is how the world worked. And all the oil was sold through the dollar, which was ruling the SWIFT system. Well, we're going to an XRP system. But over the last so many years, we've had all these things called Bitcoins and companies that keep popping up, hundreds of them. People just buying them. Nobody knows what's going to happen. And it was like we weren't allowed to buy XRP. Other countries were, but the United States wasn't even allowed to. There was this battle going on as to whether XRP was a security or a commodity. Well, obviously, we have seen now that it's already been settled. There was a reason why they wouldn't let us buy it. They've got the plan to make it, like roll it out. It will be the new system. So what's the plan for Dogecoin? What's the plan for all these cryptocurrencies that aren't really, they're just securities, and they have to be regulated, and you can't use them. They'll be under so much regulation that they're just going to disappear. What were they for? Obviously, there was a reason why these billionaires made, look, why did Elon make Dogecoin? Because it's a way to launder money. It's untraceable, right? Because you buy $1 million with a Dogecoin, and next day it's 5 million, right? On paper, but and then you could pull it out, and basically what you're doing, you go up and down like a seesaw, and sucking all the money out of people, the idiots that keep putting money into these thin air. It was all a scam, but the idea wasn't a scam, because after all, we've been doing it for years and years. Why? Because they've been making money for years and years off of it. Trump started off saying it was a scam. Now he's all on board, and the legislation's going forward because they're going to regulate it now. It's all going to be done with XRP. So what happens to Dogecoin and all the other currencies? Well, they'll either be used in the system, and we'll know what's going on and whether they're real or not real, or, based on assets. XRP is based on assets. Most of these cryptocurrencies are not based on any asset. It's just thin air, nothing. So they'll just disappear. Now, how could that help them? Why would they do that? Because the whole world's like, oh, Bitcoin, XRP, but they wouldn't let you do the XRP. So everybody's piling into Bitcoin. Perhaps Bitcoin will be one of the stable coins, or XRP's got a stable coin. It will be the stable coin, basically. And we'll all have transactions based on certain groups. Cardano and different, there's only a very, maybe, I think there's 4 of them that they're going to be using. And it seems like the whole world's using XRP. Japan, Saudi Arabia, and all the banks around the world, and BlackRock is moving over to this XRP. So what happens to Dogecoin? What happens to all the others? If you don't immediately cash out of those other ones that are securities, and I wouldn't even trust Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin might be one of the ones that you won't lose, and it'll keep going up, and it'll be used somehow in this equation. But I would take everything out of everything else and put it into XRP right now, because I guarantee they have this planned, and they already know what the price will be of XRP after this little shift goes forward. And the value is going to be transferred to XRP. Now, that means that a lot of people's hard-earned dollars that went into these other cryptocurrencies that now disappear was just a scam for you, because you didn't know. They scammed us all to get the whole economy like whittled down for the idiots to go away. But only those who know what's going on to figure out where to put their money, or be even allowed to put their real assets into an actual asset bag, which is XRP, Ripple, and the other few cryptocurrencies that they'll designate as a commodity. But all these other ones that they are, that people are like, why are they calling them securities when they're not, is because they really are. They were really securities all along. A place to store your money, but it has no value. So it says that The security label may not apply universally. Bitcoin, for instance, is widely considered a commodity, but we're not for sure about that. The impact on, we do know that XRP will be the standard, it will be the bridge, it will be the new system. XRP, Ripple's not going away. And they've already planned out the actual value. It must go way higher in order for it to become the new system, and they're going to do that. But all along, they knew that these other ones were securities. So what was their plot? Why were they making all these hundreds of other places to put money into thin air? Like almost like a casino. But it was a transactional move for these years for these billionaires like Elon to make money, to launder money, to put billions into some thin air. And it would not be used as an asset. You couldn't use it on your contract or application to buy a house because technically they don't trust that money to be real. So it's not an asset. But the big billionaires know that it will be an asset for a moment. It could go away in any day, but at least for the week, we can use this as an asset. And because you have all these billions in this temporary asset, we will give you financial aid and we'll loan you that money from the actual bank. And so that is used as security for you to get a loan to create some other company. So where do we get the money to finance this new company or this new endeavor? How did Elon get all the money to finance all this new endeavor, XRP? Why is there an X in front of XRP? SpaceX, anyone? It's the billionaires like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, whatever, that they don't have any money. We say they're billionaires, but it's just on paper. The bank is loaning them money based on something that they call a security for the loan. The loan itself is technically real. So they can technically use that money to finance a big endeavor. Now, you and I can't use these things like Bitcoin as a security, or, we can't go and buy a house, say, hey, I've got money in Bitcoin. They don't trust it. Or I've got money in some other fly-by-night crypto. They won't consider that an asset because it's too temporary. But the billionaires and the banks have been on board with all this. They know what's going on. They know that they're using these as securities, not for permanent actual money, but just a way to launder money, a security, so that the bank can say, okay, we see that you've got this thing going here. We're going to consider that a temporary security, just long enough to loan you the actual money so that you can make this endeavor, this business, SpaceX or electric cars or whatever we're going to finance, based on the fact that you're laundering this money, you're getting it, you're stealing the money. So all these securities were being stolen from the people. Masses of people putting in money, hoping it's going to go up. And then next day it goes down. Everybody loses a bunch of money. Well, nobody lost it. It was never there. But the billionaires use the ledger of, look at the billions of dollars we have on paper, to use that as a security for a loan that they actually will consider a real money. And then they'll use that loan based on that security that's not even real, based on all the money you funneled in that you're going to lose. They got that money as a security to get actual money so that they could build the new world order. So Elon is building, and Jeff Bezos and all these guys, they've all got some kind of a fake cryptocurrency going on. Sucking. You know how many companies came up and said, hey, put all your money into this, it's going to go big, and it never did, and it's gone? They just used it to launder the money. They used it as a security to go get financing from the banks that knew what was going on, but the public did not know that these securities were being used only as securities to get loans, to make actual money. And only people could get the actual money, and because it had to be billions, it had to be on paper. Somehow they had to suck all the money out of the people into their pockets as an asset, or as not a real asset, but as a security to finance a real asset. So you were being duped by putting your money into all these fly-by-night cryptos. They're all going to disappear. So what was the purpose of it? Well, all the wealth from all the peons went into the securities. They're going to disappear, but they served a purpose to serve as a security to get a financial loan by the billionaires to create the New World Order. Now, the New World Order is here, and it's called XRP. Everything's X, right? Because it's this unknown integer. It's based on the 6. X is a cross or a curse. Cursed is anyone who's crucified, crux, on a cross. It's an X, it's a cross, a curse, a hex. You hex somebody, you X them, you curse them. And it is also 6. And it's also related to sex, because the center of your body is your sexual organs. And so all of this is to represent the material, financial, or the carnal, fleshly, lustful, carnal nature, which is astrology, or the whole system of time and space, tiamat, time and matter. The serpent, swallowing his tail, the 7 heads and 10 horns, and he's eating his tail. It's 7 is time, cyclical, 7 days in a week. Then you come to a rest and start over the cycle. And 10 is the integers of numbers, the decimal system. It's all like the 10 Commandments, all the earthly, spatial, material realm, time and matter. Time and matter. It is this carnal system. Astrology is ruled over by the beasts. And we have to overcome each of the houses. That's what the beast is. 666, the number of the beast, is the law of Moses that you write upon your hand, your forehead, the carnal law of vengeance and slavery and owning a woman as a prostitute. All of this is related to the X. It's a new digital thing. It's back to the 666, which is 6 trilateral triangles that form a circle. It is 360 degrees, 60 seconds, 60 minutes. It is the sexagesimal system. Friends, you have to understand. You may not understand a word I'm saying, but certainly you must be able to gather that what I'm telling you is the truth. Get your money out of all cryptocurrency immediately. And I don't even know about Bitcoin, whether it's a cryptocurrency or whether it's going to be the one or whatever. But I do know that XRP is the one, the bridge, the financial system that we're all going to be going to. And there will be perhaps, I suppose that Bitcoin's the big daddy of, maybe it'll be used as the stablecoin along with XRP stablecoin. So you're probably fine if you stick with Bitcoin. But Bitcoin's already reached over $100,000 per coin, while XRP is down at $2.40. And within days, it's going to skyrocket. And by November, when all banks by that time are required to be using it, it'll be all out in the open. It's not going to be a sudden change like I thought. Like they would, crash the market and boom. Well, they've already crashed the market, but a slow crash using these fake securities to have assets or temporary assets to get financial backing to build the New World Order, which has been the XRP all along, the battle in the courts and all stuff. It's done. Congress just passed the bill. XRP is now done. And by the 14th, so you better have bought in it by the 13th, which is like 2 days. You really need to buy it now. And even after the 14th, it'll be going up. But, once it reaches $5, now it's $2.40. If it reaches $5, yeah, still buy it. Because it's going to be going to hundreds, thousands of dollars per coin. This is the real deal. All these others are not real. Get out of the fake cryptocurrencies. If you've got $1,000 in some crazy crypto that you don't know what it really, there's no guarantee. It might just be continued on in the future as just a security. Well, what are they going to need securities for in the future when they've got the system and it's not going to be using these fake ones? They'll disappear. Get your money out now and immediately put everything you've got into XRP. In fact, it could be that everybody who's got Bitcoin will start filing out of Bitcoin and putting it into XRP. Or it could be that Bitcoin has a purpose in this, and we'll look at that here in a second. But let me just read the rest of this. It says XRP's classification and court ruling determined that XRP is not inherently a security on its face. However, it's also determined that Ripple's institutional sales of XRP did violate security law. See, this has been this thing going on. Nobody understood why. They've been keeping it in limbo because they're waiting to roll it out. And they don't want any, the price is already determined. The worth, the value is already, they know what it is. It's like something like, I don't know, $10,000 a coin or something. Or I don't know what it'll be by November, but it's going to be a lot more than $2.40. And they've already got this plan that they're just not telling anybody. They make it look like there's this big battle and the good guys and the bad guys are fighting. No, it's just like the Democrats and Republicans. They got this all planned. They're working together, the Hegelian dialectic. They know it's going to be Ripple. So, friends, when I'm saying buy Ripple, XRP, I'm not saying get the mark of the beast. At the moment, it's just like a stock or a bond or something. It's money. Look, I've got Wells Fargo at this point. It's not immoral to use a bank. Jesus talked about you should put your money in the bank instead of buried in the ground. So banks are a principle that even Jesus understood. The problem is that during the tribulation, you're not going to be able to buy or sell unless you get the mark of the beast. And when that happens, no, we're not going to be involved. But we've got this little window before they demand that we get down and worship the beast, which, could just be that we worship government. Now, if you don't worship government, then you're not worshiping government just because you're buying XRP. What you're doing is you're being a wise person and you're putting your money in the bank, like Jesus told you. And then you're going to pull it out at a higher value after all this is over, just before they demand you get the mark of the beast. And then what are you going to do? You won't be able to buy or sell. So what are you going to do with all this money? Well, at that point, just before, if you could balance this, and the Lord may give us a chance or a window to do this, you'll make thousands of dollars and then pull it out, and then what? You'll buy land or gold or silver, and you'll hold that. And so we'll have a table prepared for us in the wilderness, the saints. But we won't keep using it as a stable coin. At that point, we'll have gotten out and put that value into land and tools and resources. But right now, we want to get the money. We're going to do to them what they did to us. They made these securities just to launder all the money from the public to make the New World Order. So we're going to say, okay, is that what you're doing? All right. So as long as you're just a bank and I know what you're doing, then yeah, I'll give you $1,000 because I know that you're going to do the little switcherooning with your hands, and all the securities and all these crypto fake currencies are going to shift as collateral for the financial loan to create the New World Order. And just before you create the New World Order, we're going to sell. We're going to take that money, buy land and securities for us. We're going to buy land and tools and commodities and assets for ourselves for the new world order. After all, it's our money. We're not doing anything wrong. The only thing that we would do that you might think would be wrong in this whole thing is if we're so ignorant that we're foolish. It's not good to be foolish, right? Even Joseph took all the grain because he knew there was a famine coming, and he stored it up in the silo so that they had plenty when the famine came. You must be wise as serpents, but as innocent as doves. So let us be wise as serpents, friends. Let us immediately, if you've got money in any of these crazy cryptocurrencies that aren't part of the plan, immediately sell it, get your money, and put it immediately into XRP today. Today. By November or later, we don't know yet. We'll play it by ear. But at some point, when that money goes up, all this cash, we'll pull it out and we'll put this money that's now been transferred from these fake securities into this XRP that we have the value in now. The real value. It's there. They're the cheaters, not us. We're not cheating by pulling our money out. We're not scamming anybody. In fact, I'm telling you the truth, and we're all hearing the truth right now. Nobody getting scammed. All the scamming was being done by them and all these fake securities. You know, I told you about Derek Bros that had some kind of a fake currency that he was, he's worth $1 billion supposedly with. They're just laundering money. I think he was doing it for Bill Gates. So there's all these cryptocurrencies that they're using to suck all the money out of the people because we don't know what's going on. So we're just buying them all, right? And look at it's going up. No, it went down. I lost. Oh, but it's going up. Oh, it went down. I lost. Well, every time you lose, they gain because they used it as a collateral for their loan to build their new world order. And now here it is, XRP. But at this point, XRP by itself, the bank by itself, is not the mark of the beast. It's just assets. It's just talents. Remember, Jesus gave us talents, some 10, some 5, some 1. And he said, don't bury it, put it in the bank. That's what Jesus said. I think he said that for us today, to be wise stewards of his wealth, the wealth of the world. They're liars, but we're not ignorant. So we're going to take the assets of the people that they're trying to destroy, and we're going to put them into actual resources. We're going to feed the people. We're going to love the people. We're going to clothe the people. Friends, this is absolutely brilliant. Now let me show you a little bit more about what I'm saying. All right, guys, hold on to your hats or whatever the expression is, because you're about to hear the truth that you've never heard. Nobody. I mean, you can go online right now and everybody's talking about XRP and cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and all of this, and it's been going on, and it's a big frenzy. It's a cult. It's literally a worldwide cult of believers. And just like with every cult, it's all lies. And yet there's a purpose behind everything. Like Jehovah's Witnesses, they're in a cult. They think they're the truth. Well, that's a lie. But there was a purpose for it. You got to have the people do what you want them to do. So you've got to lie to them. And what we've got to do is find out what the real truth is to figure out why they did this to us. They had to have people duped. So they made Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons in some, secret organization where they have these secret rites where you had to take oaths and you're trained to wear a suit and tie and to be a businessman, and they put you and they know you'll never lie because you're under oath, and you can run these businesses. So it was a plot. Okay, so the securities these cryptocurrencies were a plot. We didn't know. But listen to what they're saying here. It says, historically, cryptocurrencies were not specifically used as collateral by individuals or entities to directly fund the initial development or the building of XRP itself. The XRP ledger and XRP cryptocurrencies were created with $100 billion tokens pre-mined in 2012, whatever that mumbo jumbo means. 80 billion of these were gifted to Ripple Labs to support the growth of the XRP ecosystem. Ripple Labs manages the release of these tokens into circulation over time to enhance liquidity and market stability. However, the question of whether cryptocurrencies can be used as collateral, like temporary assets or securities, get it? To obtain like temporary assets, because it's not real assets. Yeah, XRP is an asset backed by assets, real assets, oil, land, gold, everything. It's a real asset. But you see, these securities are just temporary assets. They're not even real. It's just thin air. It's just a way to launder money and to get financial, to use it as a security to get a loan. But you and I can't use it as a security. We can't put that on our application for a loan to buy a house, but they're doing it. Now, notice this. It was a temporary asset or a security to obtain loans for other purposes or for activities that involve XRP or XRP Ledger. It's a separate matter whether that's going on. So what is the truth about that? Well, XRP as collateral for loans, XRP and other cryptocurrencies can be used as collateral to secure loans on various platforms, both centralized and decentralized. These loans allow XRP holders to access liquidity without selling their crypto assets. It's all on paper. It's not real. There ain't no money. They don't have to sell or buy anything. It's just like transferring something on a ledger that gives them technically this fake money that is supposedly an asset that's not an asset to actually buy real assets, like your lives and your souls, right? Your government, your oil, the electricity you use, the electric cars, all of this is a plot. So the growing trend, the use of crypto as collateral is an emerging trend. It's an emerging trend. Well, that's about over, that trend, I guarantee it. Well, they might continue the trend. Maybe they'll continue with these fake ones. Get you all to believe in it and take your money and put it back into their pocket. So from now on, guys, don't believe any of these other ones. Just put your money in XRP. It's the only stable coin that we know for sure is going to be stable. Now, I can say, it may be that after this, the dust settles, Bitcoin will be one of them, and Cardona and a couple of others maybe will be safe. You can use it as a stable coin, but I suspect the peasants will be using them as transactional coins. But the wealthy will own the infrastructure of the whole thing, which is XRP. So you and I are going to be the ones investing in the infrastructure, the bridge that gets us there, which is XRP, which also has a stable coin. But we're only going to hold it long enough, and we're going to do the same thing they did and pull it out, and then we're going to buy land, which when you buy land, it's done with a contract. Remember, the entire system of these goons, Yahweh and his law, is law and order, and they have to go by law and order. So if you sign a contract, you're bound by it. So they can't take your land away. And until Christ comes and sets us free in the Jubilee, if we got a contract that says we own land, they can't take it from you. So we're going to take the money out of XRP when the time is right, and we'll get to that then. Maybe 3 months or maybe more from now. We're going to pull it out and buy land, tools, and resources. So it says, with platforms like Maple Finance and Nexo accepting XRP as collateral for loans in stablecoins for fiat currencies. Ripple's role in liquidity and markets. Ripple Labs plays a crucial role in maintaining and expanding XRP's markets liquidity through the controlled release of tokens and strategic partnerships with financial institutions. That's kind of what all this is strategic partnerships. Laundering money, building the New World Order off of speculation and you and I putting our money in there, and then it drops and they take it as loans to build their companies. So this indirectly creates a more stable environment for those seeking to leverage XRP. So for those of us levering XRP, we got a stable environment. We ain't going nowhere. They're using these fake temporary ones, which are not stable, and they're not secure, right? They're only called securities because they're being used as a transactional security to get actual real assets and money. So they do this perhaps as collateral for loans in support of various ventures. That's why Elon Musk made Doge. He made billions off of it by sucking all the money out of the ignorant fools that were, putting their money in. It would go up and it would go down. They'd lose their money. They could, we can't play the market. The casino makes all the money. DeFi and lending protocols. The emerging DeFi, decentralized finance, space and lending protocols on the XRP ledger allow users to borrow and lend digital assets, including XRP, with smart contracts managing collateral and repayment terms. Okay, but only the big boys can do this, and they know that XRP is the big mama. And all the other ones are just temporary. That's why they've been calling them securities all this time. And only XRP is going to be considered a commodity or an asset where you hold real assets, not just temporary, fake, transient securities that people are manipulating as a way to launder money from the ignorant peasants into their pockets. So, guys, in conclusion, here's the thing. I know a lot of you are scared, and some of you don't even know how. I'm going to just tell you right now how to do this. Go onto Coinbase, which is the biggest platform there is. Some people use Gemini or something else. It probably doesn't matter, but, you go to Coinbase. You have to start an account. That may be a little frustrating, and put your bank information in there. And then they're going to need to verify you. They'll send you a link, and you got to have a code, and you got to have 2 verifications for. And look, we're glad they're doing this because they need to make sure that somebody can't get in there and just take your money. So, they're gonna. If you want to put your face recognition on there, it's a little easier. But I won't do that, and none of my friends do that. We ain't giving them our thumbprints or our face recognition. But you do have to have 2 ways to verify, with a photo or your driver's license or something, and they need pictures or whatever, or they need to have some kind of send you a verification code. There's something you got to download that will verify something. After you get that done, it might take, I've had people tell me, more than one, that it's frustrating because they send the code and you have to keep sending it, and finally say, oh, too late. It doesn't seem to work very smoothly. You just keep doing it until it finally takes. And so it's very frustrating. But once you get that, friends, then you can transfer money from your bank. And for those of you who don't have a bank account, and some of you don't, I know, you can use Cash App or Apple Pay, and you don't even need a bank account for that. You can just, for Cash App or anything. You can pay cash and get it on a card and give them your card and supply money to Coinbase, and then from Coinbase just purchase the XRP. Anyways, guys, I know I'm maybe you might think this is very risky or whatever. Maybe. Everything in life has some risk. But I think it's far more risky to leave your money in cash or in the bank. I think regardless of what we do, they're going to be transferring all of your money that's in the bank already to this digital cashless system. So it's going to be anyway. You might as well put it in the right file or folder, which is XRP. Get it right into the, purchase the roots of the whole system. We're not doing anything immoral. And within months, you're going to be wealthy. And it's going to be an opportunity, not for you to go out and revel in material wealth. This is not why we're doing it. We're only doing it to save the children, friends, and to save our family and friends. We're going to purchase land resources, clothes, food, materials to save the world. And then we're going to pull it out. And we're not going to be worshiping no beast. But we have knowledge. And with knowledge, there comes power and great responsibility. Please use it wisely, my friends. But the Lord loves you all, even those who don't even know He loves you. He really loves you. And this is a message. This video is a message to you. I hope that you will receive it. Go buy some XRP. You go out and you work, don't you? Why? You want that ugly, evil money, huh? Well, Jesus gave us talents. We can use money. There's nothing wrong with that. So you've been putting money into the system all this time. They've been stealing it from us. They've been harassing. Look, it's time. We're going to turn the tables. We're going to buy XRP. It's going to go wee, and then we're going to pull it out, and we're going to have land. We're going to have money to buy land, resources, and clothes. Let's get her done. Get her done. Get up. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one, friends.